The fluorescent lights of the Dollar General checkout flickered as I scanned items. Detergent, bread, ramen noodles. The same thing every Tuesday afternoon for the past 6 years. My phone vibrated in my apron pocket. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? She's gone. My son's voice. I hadn't heard it in 4 years. Not since he'd walked past me on the street in downtown Portland like I was invisible. Grandma died this morning. Heart attack. My hand stilled over the scanner. The customer waiting gave me an impatient look. Michael. His name felt strange on my tongue. Funeral Saturday. Will reading Monday at 10. Spencer and Walsh, 3rd Avenue. His tone was clipped, professional, the voice he probably used with clients at his hedge fund. I assume you'll show up for the money. There was something in those last words. Contempt, triumph, like he'd been waiting 12 years to land that punch. Your grandmother was. I know what she was. And I know what you are. The line went dead. I stood there holding a bottle of Tide, staring at nothing. 12 years. 12 years since the federal marshals walked into our Seattle office. 12 years since I'd watched my 23-year-old son's face crumple in the courtroom when I pled guilty. 12 years since he'd learned his mother was a criminal. Except I wasn't. Catherine Hart. My mother. The woman who'd built Hart Enterprises from a single Seattle coffee shop into a West Coast chain with 47 locations. The woman who'd given me my first job at 16, washing dishes in that original shop on Pike Street. The woman who'd held my hand through my divorce from Michael's father, who'd paid for Michael's Stanford tuition when his dad drank himself to death. She knew. She'd always known. But we'd never talked about it. The truth was too dangerous. Michael's future had been too precious. Some silences are kept for love. I'd been the CFO of Hart Enterprises. Michael had just finished his MBA and joined as an analyst in our investment division. Young, brilliant, hungry to prove himself. Too hungry. He'd gotten involved with some traders in San Francisco, sophisticated guys who showed him how to make fast money. Futures trading. Derivatives. High-risk, high-reward plays that were technically legal but ethically murky, until they weren't legal anymore, until the SEC started investigating, until they found $2.8 million in irregularities, money moved between accounts, falsified reports, securities fraud. Michael's signatures were on everything. I remember the night he came to my apartment, 23 years old and shaking. Mom, I didn't know. They said it was fine. They said everyone did it this way. But ignorance isn't a defense. Intent doesn't matter when you're facing 20 years in federal prison. He'd sat on my couch, head in his hands. My life is over. Everything I worked for. I'd looked at my son, my only child, the baby I'd rocked at 3 a.m., the boy I'd taught to ride a bike, the young man who'd just been offered a position at Goldman Sachs, a position that would evaporate the second his arrest hit the news. No, I'd said, it's not. I was 52, healthy, strong. I could survive prison. I'd built one career. I could build another. Michael was 23. This would destroy him before he'd even started. The CFO signing off on irregular trades? Plausible. The young analyst following orders from his superior? Even more plausible. Mom, what are you? Listen to me. Tomorrow morning, you're going to your lawyer. You're going to tell him I pressured you. I instructed you. I threatened your job if you didn't comply. I can't let you. You can and you will, because I'm your mother, and this is what mothers do. He'd testified against me. At my trial. His voice shaking as he described how I'd manipulated him, used him, forced him to participate in my scheme. The prosecutor had been gentle with him. Poor kid, corrupted by his own mother. They gave him immunity in exchange for his testimony. I'd gotten 4 years, served 30 months in a federal facility in Dublin, California. When I got out, Michael had moved to New York. His career was thriving. He'd married Victoria, a lawyer whose father owned half of Connecticut. They had a penthouse in Tribeca. He posted photos on social media that I looked at from the library computer. Him in Santorini. Him closing a $1 billion deal. Him at charity galas. He never posted about having a mother. I'd started over in Portland. Away from Seattle, away from the memories. I got a job at Dollar General, then moved up to assistant manager. I lived in a studio apartment above a Vietnamese restaurant. The owner, Mrs. Nguyen, gave me free pho sometimes. Small kindnesses mattered more than they used to. I sent Michael a card every birthday, every Christmas. They came back unopened for the first 5 years. Then they just stopped coming back at all. I didn't know if he read them or if Victoria threw them away first. My mother had visited me in prison once, just once. They'd made her sit behind glass, talk through a phone. She was 78 then, still sharp as a knife. "I know," she'd said. "Mom, don't. I know what you did. What you're doing." Her eyes were fierce. "You think I built a business without learning to read people? I've known Michael since he was born. I've known you for 52 years. Then why? Because you asked me to keep quiet. Because you made your choice. Because sometimes love means watching someone we love suffer for a choice we don't agree with." She'd pressed her palm to the glass. "But I won't forget. I never forget." She died alone in her Seattle penthouse. "Heart attack at 86, the lawyer had said on the phone yesterday. Quick, painless. She'd been reading in her chair by the window overlooking Elliott Bay. Just closed her eyes and didn't open them again. Saturday morning, I took the bus from Portland to Seattle. 4 hours of watching the I-5 corridor roll past. Evergreen trees and gray sky and rain. Always rain in November. The funeral was at St. James Cathedral, the same church where she'd married my father 59 years ago. I got there early and sat in the back row, far left, near the exit, easy to slip away. The church filled with hundreds of people, business executives in Armani, politicians, Seattle's elite, paying respects to Catherine Hart, the coffee queen who'd become a philanthropist in her later years. They'd named a wing of the Children's Hospital after her, a scholarship program at University of Washington. Michael arrived with Victoria. Even from the back, I could see how good they looked. Him in a charcoal Tom Ford suit, her in a black Prada dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. They sat in the front pew, his siblings, my mother's grandchildren from my younger brother who died in a car accident 20 years ago. But Michael was the eldest. The primary heir, everyone knew. The eulogies painted my mother as a saint. Visionary, generous, a woman who'd pulled herself up from nothing and never forgot where she came from. They talked about her foundation, her donations, her work with disadvantaged youth. No one mentioned me, the daughter who'd disgraced the family name, the criminal who'd stolen and lied. I was the ghost in the room, the shameful secret everyone knew about but pretended didn't exist. I left during the final prayer, before the recession. I couldn't watch them carry her casket out, couldn't risk Michael seeing me and making a scene. Monday morning arrived cold and bitter. Portland had gotten snow overnight, unusual for November. I called in sick to work, put on my only nice outfit, a gray pantsuit I'd worn to job interviews 5 years ago, and took the early bus back to Seattle. Spencer and Walsh occupied a glass building in downtown Seattle, overlooking the Sound. I remembered coming here with my mother when I was young, when she was setting up trusts and estate planning. The same burgundy carpet, the same oil paintings of sailing ships. The receptionist's smile faltered when I gave my name. "Oh, yes, you're expected. Conference room B, 12th floor." The elevator ride felt like ascending to my own execution. When the doors opened, I could hear voices down the hall. Michael's voice, confident, discussing something about portfolio diversification. I walked slowly, my discount flats silent on the carpet. Through the glass walls, I could see them. Michael and Victoria at a massive mahogany conference table. He was on his phone. She was reviewing documents. They looked like exactly what they were: successful, powerful, entitled. I pushed open the door. They both looked up. Michael's face went blank. Not angry, not sad. Just nothing. Like I was a stranger. Diane, my name. Not mom, not mother, just Diane. Michael. Victoria studied me with the cold assessment of a lawyer. Her eyes took in my outdated suit, my sensible shoes, my gray hair that I cut myself in the bathroom mirror. I saw her make a decision. Not a threat. "Sit anywhere," Michael said, turning back to his phone. I took a chair at the far end of the table, as far from them as possible. The view behind them showed the Sound, gray and choppy. Ferry boats crossing, the city my mother had loved. We sat in silence for 15 minutes. I watched Michael type on his phone, fire off emails. Victoria reviewed documents with a gold pen, making notes in precise handwriting. They didn't look at me, didn't acknowledge my existence beyond that first glance. Footsteps in the hall. David Spencer entered, carrying a leather briefcase that looked older than I was. He'd been my mother's attorney for 40 years. He'd also represented me during my plea bargain, though we'd never discussed that afterward. His eyes met mine briefly. Something passed between us. Recognition, sadness. He knew. "Thank you all for coming." He sat down, opened his briefcase. "I know this is difficult." Catherine was very specific about how she wanted this handled. She updated her will just 3 months ago, after her doctors found the heart condition. Heart condition? I hadn't known she was sick. She insisted on this meeting. "All 3 of you present. No exceptions." He pulled out a thick document, cream paper with blue backing. "She wanted you to hear this together." Michael's jaw tightened, but he nodded curtly. "Let's get this done. I have a flight at 6. David put on his reading glasses. "I, Catherine Elizabeth Hart, being of sound mind and body, hereby declare this to be my last will and testament." The formal language rolled on, revoking previous wills, appointing executors, confirming no outstanding debts, standard estate planning. Victoria's pen tapped against her notepad. Michael stared out the window. Then David reached the bequests. "To my grandson, Michael James Anderson." Michael leaned forward slightly. "I leave the following. The Hart family estate in Medina, including all furnishings, artwork, and grounds. Appraised value, $14 million. Victoria smiled. "The Medina estate, waterfront property overlooking Lake Washington, 8 bedrooms, tennis courts, private dock. I'd spent summers there as a child. I also leave him my shares in Hart Enterprises, comprising 60% ownership of all business holdings." Michael's shoulders relaxed. This was it, the company. 47 coffee shops, 2 roasting facilities, real estate holdings across the Pacific Northwest, the empire his grandmother had built. But David wasn't finished. His voice took on a careful quality. "However, these bequests come with conditions and information that Michael must understand." Michael frowned. "Conditions?" "The Medina estate carries a $3 million reverse mortgage that your grandmother took out 18 months ago for medical expenses. The property is underwater. You may assume the debt or sell and receive nothing." The smile disappeared from Victoria's face. "What?" "Regarding Hart Enterprises." David turned a page. "While Michael will inherit 60% ownership, he should know that the company currently faces significant financial difficulties. 4 of the Seattle locations have been operating at a loss for 2 years. The lease on the roasting facility expires in 6 months, and the landlord has doubled the rent. Additionally, there are 3 pending lawsuits, 2 employment disputes, and 1 slip and fall totaling approximately $6 million. The company is solvent, but barely. It will require significant capital investment and restructuring to survive the next 5 years." Michael had gone pale. "That's impossible. Grandma's company was worth considerable sums. 10 years ago, 15 years ago. The market changed. Your grandmother made some risky expansion decisions in her final years that didn't pan out." David's voice was gentle. "She wanted you to understand that inheriting something isn't the same as earning it. That real success requires work, sacrifice, and facing hard truths." "This is insane," Victoria said. "We'll contest it." "You may try." "Your grandmother had 3 separate psychiatric evaluations, confirming her competency. She knew exactly what she was doing." Michael's hands were clenched on the table. His knuckles were white. He looked like he wanted to throw something, but his lawyer wife had trained him better than that. "Now." David turned several pages. "To my daughter, Diane Marie Anderson." I braced myself. Here it came. The final humiliation, the public acknowledgement of my disgrace. $25. A symbolic nothing. I leave the sum of $100. Michael barked out a laugh. It was harsh, sharp, ugly. $100. That's perfect. That's more than you deserve. Victoria smirked. Rather generous for someone who committed securities fraud, I'd say. I said nothing. What was there to say? I'd expected nothing. $100 was more than I'd hoped for. My mother's way of saying, I know you exist. Nothing more. At least she got less than us, Michael continued, satisfaction creeping into his voice despite the bombshells about his inheritance. Even with all our problems, at least we're not getting $100 consolation prize. But David was turning pages. And more pages. His expression shifted, softened. If we've concluded discussion of the initial bequests, I'll continue with the remainder of the estate. There's more? Victoria asked, confused. Oh yes. David's eyes found mine. Quite a bit more. He cleared his throat and read. To Diane, I additionally leave the following. My penthouse at 4th and Pike, Seattle, including all contents. Appraised value, $22 million. The room went silent. My vacation home in San Juan Islands, appraised value $8 million. My investment portfolio comprising stocks, bonds, real estate holdings, and business interests outside Hart Enterprises. Current value, approximately $163 million. Victoria's mouth had opened. No sound came out. My personal accounts, containing $34 million. My art collection, currently in storage, valued at approximately $12 million. All told, I leave Diane approximately $212 million in liquid and fixed assets. Michael's face had drained of all color. He looked at David like he'd started speaking in tongues. Additionally, David continued, his voice steady, I have established a trust that will pay Diane $8 million annually for the rest of her life, adjusted for inflation. The principal cannot be touched, challenged, or contested. It's irrevocable. No. Michael's voice was barely a whisper. No. This is wrong. She's a criminal. She stole. She was innocent. David's interruption was firm. Which brings me to the final section of your grandmother's will. A letter she wanted read aloud. To both of you. No exceptions. He pulled out an envelope, opened it, withdrew several pages in my mother's spidery handwriting. The same handwriting I'd seen on birthday cards, shopping lists, notes left on the refrigerator when I was young. I'll read this now. Michael looked like he might be sick. Victoria had gone white. I felt frozen, unable to process what I'd just heard. $212 million. Everything. She'd left me everything. David began to read, and my mother's voice seemed to fill the room. To my grandson Michael. I know you're angry. You feel betrayed. Good. That's exactly how your mother felt 12 years ago when she went to prison for your crimes. Yes, your crimes. Not hers. Diane didn't commit securities fraud. You did. She took the fall to save your life, your career, your future. And I've watched for 12 years as you let her sacrifice mean nothing. Michael's hands started shaking. I knew from the beginning. Did you really think I built a 47-location business without learning to spot a liar? I could see it in your eyes that day you came to my office, right after Diane's sentencing. You were relieved, grateful it was her, and not you. You'd convinced yourself she wanted this, that it was her choice, so you didn't have to feel guilty. Grandma, Michael whispered to the air. But here's what you didn't know, Michael. Your mother didn't just take the fall. She begged me to stay quiet. She made me promise not to tell you the truth. She said you needed to believe you had at least one parent with integrity, that if you knew what you'd really done, it would destroy you. She was protecting you even from yourself. A tear ran down Michael's face. He didn't wipe it away. I've given you the family business, Michael, but I've given you the truth about it. The Hart name isn't magic. The company isn't invincible. Success isn't inherited. It's earned through hard work, through sacrifice, through integrity. Your grandmother started with nothing. Your mother built a career from nothing twice. What have you built? A reputation based on your mother's sacrifice. A career funded by your grandmother's name. A life you didn't earn. David paused, turned a page. The struggling company is your chance to finally build something real. To understand what your mother and I already know, that nothing worth having comes easy. That true success means facing your failures. That integrity matters more than appearance. You have a choice now. You can contest this will. You can keep lying to yourself. You can remain the man who let his mother go to prison and never looked back. Or, you can be better. You can acknowledge the truth. You can beg your mother's forgiveness. You can become the man she believed you could be when she gave up 4 years of her life for you. To Diane, my daughter, my best friend, my hero, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I kept your secret. I'm sorry I watched you suffer and said nothing. You made me promise, but I should have broken that promise. Michael needed the truth more than he needed his pride. My eyes were burning. I couldn't blink, couldn't breathe. You could have exposed him at any time. You could have told him what really happened. You could have demanded I acknowledge the truth. You never did. You kept your promise. You let him hate you for 12 years because you loved him that much. I'm giving you everything, Diane, because everything is what you gave up. Your freedom, your career, your reputation, your relationship with your son. You gave it all away for love. This money, these assets, they can't give you back those years. They can't repair what was broken. But I hope they give you the life you should have had, the security you deserve, the freedom to build something beautiful again. You always were the builder in our family, Diane, not me. I just had the luck and the timing. You had the vision. Build something amazing with this money. Help people the way you've always helped people. Be the woman you've always been, the one who gives everything for love. I love you, my daughter. I'm sorry I couldn't say this while I was alive. Some truths are too dangerous to speak until after we're gone. Forgive me. Forgive Michael if you can. He's young. He was stupid. He's had 12 years of living a lie. That's punishment enough. Your mother, Catherine. David set down the pages carefully. The silence in the room was absolute except for the sound of Michael crying. Not quiet tears, sobs, his whole body shaking. Mom. The word broke on his lips. The first time he'd called me that in 12 years. Mom. Is it true? I looked at my son. Really looked at him. He wasn't the confident hedge fund manager anymore. He was a boy, 23 years old and terrified, sitting on my couch, head in his hands. My life is over. Yes, I said quietly. It's true. You went to prison. For me. He was sobbing now, gasping. 4 years. No, 30 months, but 4 years total, and I testified against you. I said you forced me. I told them, oh God, what did I tell them? You told them what I told you to say. Why? He stood abruptly, his chair falling backward. Why would you do that? Why would you let me destroy you? Because you're my son. Because I loved you more than I loved my freedom. Because mothers don't stop loving their children, even when my voice broke. Even when their children stop loving them. I never stopped loving you. He was around the table now, stumbling, falling to his knees beside my chair. I hated you, but I never stopped. I couldn't stop. He buried his face in my lap like he used to when he was small, when he'd had a bad dream. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I put my hand on his head. His hair was thinner than I remembered. He was 35 now, not 23. 12 years had passed. 12 years I'd given him. I know, sweetheart. The things I said. The things I thought about you. The way I walked past you on the street that day. I know. Victoria had stood up, backing away from the table like she didn't know these people. Her husband, broken and sobbing. The criminal mother-in-law who was suddenly not a criminal. The grandmother whose money she'd been counting on. Michael, we should go, she said. Her voice was strained. We should talk to our lawyers. No. He lifted his head. His face was destroyed. Red, swollen, years of carefully constructed armor shattered. No, I need Mom. I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do. David had quietly gathered his papers and was slipping from the room, giving us privacy. I don't want Grandma's money, Michael said. I don't want any of it. It should be yours. All of it should be yours. Your grandmother wanted you to have the company. I don't deserve it. I don't deserve anything. I let you go to prison. I believed, how could I believe that you would? He couldn't finish. You were 23. You were scared. You trusted me to tell you the truth, and I lied to you. This isn't your fault, Michael. It is my fault. I committed the crime. I let you take the fall. I spent 12 years living the life that should have been yours. He was shouting now. 12 years of buried guilt exploding. I have a penthouse because you went to prison. I have a career because you gave up yours. Everything I have is built on your suffering. Then build something better. I took his hands. They were cold. Your grandmother gave you a struggling company. Fix it. Make it mean something. Make it honest. That's how you honor what I did. Not by refusing your inheritance, but by earning it. I don't know how. Then I'll teach you. The words came out before I'd thought them through, but they felt right. If you want to learn, if you're willing, yes. He squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. Please, teach me to be like you. Teach me to build something real. Teach me to be the man you thought I could be. I looked at my son and saw past the expensive suit and the hedge fund arrogance to the scared boy underneath, the one who'd made a terrible mistake at 23, the one who'd lived with guilt for 12 years, even if he'd never admitted it. Okay, I said. We start tomorrow. Not tomorrow. He pulled me into a hug, clinging like he used to when he was small. Now. Right now. I don't want to waste any more time. We held each other while Victoria slipped out of the room, her heels clicking down the hallway. I heard her making phone calls, already calculating, already planning. She'd divorce him within 6 months, I suspected. This wasn't the man she'd married, the successful, confident Michael. This broken one had no use to her. 3 months later, I stood in the Hart Enterprises headquarters in Seattle. Michael walked beside me, no longer in Tom Ford, but in a simple blue button-down and khakis. He looked younger, lighter. We'd spent the past months working 16-hour days. I'd liquidated part of my inheritance to inject capital into the business. Michael had renegotiated the roasting facility lease, settled the lawsuits, closed 2 underperforming locations, and reopened them with new concepts. He'd fired the management team that had been stealing from the company for years. Victoria had filed for divorce. He'd signed the papers without arguing, given her everything she asked for. I don't need it, he'd said. It was never really mine anyway. We were rebuilding, not the company Catherine had created that was gone. We were building something new, something honest. Hart and Anderson, mother and son, starting over. I'd kept the penthouse at 4th and Pike but sold the San Juan house. Put $100 million in a foundation for families of the wrongfully convicted. Started a scholarship program for children of incarcerated parents. The rest I was investing in small businesses, in people who needed a second chance. People like me. Ready? Michael asked as we approached the conference room. Ready. We had a staff meeting in 5 minutes. 43 employees who'd stayed through the transition, who'd believed in our vision of transparency and integrity. Who wanted to work for a company that meant something? My son held the door open for me. I walked in with my head high. Not the criminal who'd slunk away in shame, not the Dollar General cashier scanning ramen noodles, just Diane, building again, teaching my son to build together. Mom, Michael said quietly as we took our seats, thank you. For everything. For then. For now. For giving me a second chance I don't deserve. We're giving each other a second chance, I said. Both of us. He smiled. A real smile this time, not the corporate mask, but genuine joy. I like that better. After the meeting, I stood at the window watching Elliott Bay. The same bay my mother had looked at from her penthouse. The same water I'd watched from her hospital bedside years ago. The same city where I'd built my first career, lost everything, and was building again. I thought about the $100. My mother's joke. The setup for the punchline. She'd known exactly what would happen. Knew Michael would laugh. Knew the twist would hit harder. She'd given me everything. Not just the money. She'd given me my son back. She'd given me the truth. She'd given me a chance to build something beautiful from the ruins of what we'd lost. 12 years. I'd lost 12 years with Michael. Years I could never get back. Prison time. Holidays. His wedding. Sunday dinners. The sound of him calling me Mom. But I had now. I had today. And tomorrow. And however many years we'd get to rebuild what we'd lost. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. Dinner tonight? I'm cooking. Or attempting to cook. Be prepared to order pizza. I smiled and typed back. 7. I'll bring dessert. Such a small thing. Dinner with my son. But after 12 years, small things felt like miracles. I turned from the window and got back to work. There was a company to save, a foundation to run, a relationship to rebuild. The afternoon stretched ahead, full of possibility. $212 million. My mother had left me $212 million. But that wasn't the inheritance that mattered. She'd left me the truth. And with it, she'd given me back my son. That was worth everything.